Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on Sunday, the day after Arsenal's winning run in the Premier League came to an end with that 0-0 draw at Brighton. I didn't get to do a video yesterday after the game. I did watch it, but I wasn't there. I had to stay at home because of some family stuff going on around here. So I had to pull out of actually going to the Amex. Wasn't the nicest of weather, so I can't say I was too disappointed not to be sat in that press box, which is right behind the dugouts. And from all my colleagues who were there, they were absolutely drenched and they were trying to type underneath plastic tarpaulins and things like that. And I think they had to rush to the car park after the game to actually open their computers. The weather was so bad, so wasn't the worst game to miss. But I thought I'd pop on here and just go over my thoughts on the game. I know lots of you have been discussing it since the full-time whistle. Go over a little bit what Mikel had to say. So let's get cracking. Look, let's get it out of the way. Arsenal were not very good against Brighton. In fact, they were pretty poor. And I've said that on Twitter after the game. But for me, it was a decent point. Not a decent point because you want to get a draw at Brighton. You don't. Obviously, you want to beat Brighton and get 3 points. But because Arsenal were poor, and they weren't good enough. Brighton were by far the better team. Should have won if they'd have taken their chances. And so ultimately, it was a decent point for Arsenal because it was a point they probably didn't deserve. Mikel Arteta admitted that after the game. Now, a lot of you sort of taking that, not you, but a lot of people on Twitter, and I know you shouldn't gauge fan opinion from just social media, especially Twitter, because it can be such a brutal place. But it happens. You don't play well. You don't play well all the time by any means. But when you don't play well, it's important not to lose. And Arsenal didn't lose yesterday. They dug in. I thought in the second half they were decent, or they were certainly much better than they were in the first half. They controlled Brighton a little bit better. And Brighton are a decent side. And Arsenal could have easily lost that game, but they didn't. They dug in. They got themselves a point. And you move on. And for me, some of the reaction to that draw yesterday, just personally for me, it's over the top. Arsenal won the last 4 games in the international break in the league. They've won 3, drawn 1, lost none, kept 3 out of 4 clean sheets. That is improvement. 10 points out of a possible 12. It's been a decent 4 weeks for Arsenal. Yes, yesterday's performance wasn't good enough. It wasn't great. Brighton were a better team. Arsenal couldn't really string 2 passes together. They barely troubled Brighton, although saying that, they still probably had the best chance of the match when Smith Rowe went through in the second half. But you just move on. You can't play well every single game. And Brighton are no mugs. Everyone's loads of people, not everyone, but lots of people on Twitter after the game, it's just been driving me mad. It's a hard place to deal with, social media, after a result some of the time, because you just expect to win every single game. It doesn't happen. The Invincibles didn't win every single game. The Invincibles weren't great every game, especially away from home. They played poorly lots of times, but they just got a draw, 12 of them that season, and you move on. And this is an Arsenal team that's not great. Not like the Invincibles, who were great, and they couldn't play well every single game. So this team that is full of youngsters and new signings at the moment it's going to be highs like we saw against Tottenham, and they're going to be lows like we saw against Brighton. But the fact they didn't lose is a positive for me. They dug in, they got themselves a draw. Aaron Ramsdale played really well. I thought the 2 centre-backs played really well. And they got a draw when they could have easily lost. So you just got to move on. It's going to be like this with Arsenal this season. When you've got such a young team. You look at that. I put out a tweet yesterday after the lineup was announced, and I think the average age was 23.5 with that. And then when you take Aubameyang out of that, it was 22.7. 5 of the new signings started. Full of kids and new players. It's just, you're going to get inconsistent. That's what Arsenal season is going to be, I'm afraid, this season. If anyone thinks that they're going to turn up and spank teams like they did to Tottenham last week in, week out, it is just not going to happen. This team is too inexperienced, and you're going to have highs and you're going to have lows. And if you have the low, like you had against Brighton in terms of performance, you just try and dig in and get something from the game. And Arsenal did that yesterday. And ultimately, that's why I think it was not a bad point. It wasn't a great performance, but it was not a bad point. And Brighton are no mugs, by the way. People expecting Brighton to just roll over. You got another thing coming. Brighton are a decent team. They've shown that this season. If they'd have won yesterday, they would have gone second behind Chelsea. They've had a good start to the season. It is not the disaster of all disasters that Arsenal didn't win that game. And for me, it was just another sign of a little bit of improvement in this side. The fact that they didn't play well, but they made sure they got themselves a point away at a decent Premier League team. They dug in, they kept a clean sheet. That's 3 out of 4 now in the Premier League. Ramsdale played well when he needed to. I thought Ben White and Gabriel were very good when they needed to be. And it's just one of those games. where you put the performance to one side, say, yep, we didn't play well. And Mikel Arteta admitted after the game, he said, look, I think it was a point game because I don't think we deserved anything more than that. If we did deserve that point, it's because we defended really well in the last 15, 20 minutes. But in general, we never felt in control of the game. We struggled to break the press and get good sequences of passes in the final third. They made it very tough for us. And it's all just spot on. Arsenal struggled. They really struggled to beat Brighton's press. As Arteta said, so Brighton were on them all the time. I thought Thomas Partey was poor in midfield. I thought Sambi Lagonga put himself about a bit and grew into the game. I thought, but it's going to be it's a tough ask for a 20-year-old kid going in those conditions away to a decent team and replacing someone like Granit Xhaka. But I thought he did all right. But those midfield, they were just overrun, I thought, at times, and Arsenal paid the price for it. But again, I'll say it, they didn't lose the game. They kept a clean sheet. And they got a point, and they go back to London. It is not the end of the world. You're just going to get that with Arsenal this season. If people think, this is a symbol of how far we've fallen, that we're not winning against Brighton, Arsenal don't just go and win against these teams anymore. They don't. And yes, that's a shame. Yes, I wish we were the Invincibles still, but we're not. And like I said, even the Invincibles drew games that season. It's not a disaster. If every single time you don't win a game is this absolute mad disaster, then it's going to be a long old season and it's going to be very, very hard to deal with. I have to admit, like Twitter last night, it absolutely did my head in by the end of it. It's like, why are so many people so angry that Arsenal didn't play well? You just can't play well every single game. Anyway, that's my lot on that. Bad performance, not the worst of points. Move on. It's been a decent few weeks for Arsenal, and now it's time for the international break, and hopefully they can hit the ground running after that. I thought Aaron Ramsdale was really good yesterday, and I thought his interview after the game was excellent as well. And he's talked about the match, and he talked about himself as well. This is a little bit about what Aaron Ramsdale had to say. On the fact there was 3 clean sheets out of 4, he says, I'll take it. I'll prefer it if it was 4 out of 4, but 3 wins, a draw, 3 clean sheets. I can't ask for much more. Hopefully I can tidy myself up a bit performance-wise. My kicking today was not great. It was below par. If I can tidy that up, I can really tie my game together and be happy after every time after the game. Fair play to Aaron Ramsdale. Even there, he's sort of critiquing himself after what was a decent performance from him as well. He got away with one in the first half where he spilled across at the feet of, I can't remember, was it Shane Duffy? It was one of the Brighton players and he put it over. So he's got away with one a little bit there. But other than that, he did really well. I mean, that big hand he did at the end when it looked like Neil Maupay was just going to have a tap in. That was fantastic from Ramsdale there. And he just continues to impress. And I like the way he spoke after the game. I thought it was a really good interview, the way he talked about himself and then the way he talked about Arsenal as well. This is what he said. He said, there are lots of efforts on goal. Thankfully, they were off target. There were a couple towards the end where I had to do my job. Hopefully I did that, especially with the rain, sometimes not being involved in the game that much. I have to be concentrating. I have to give credit to the whole team for working hard. That's 3 clean sheets in 4 games. We can take the positives out at today. It was not all doom and gloom. It was a gritty result. We could have easily crumbled and let Brighton get the win, but we showed heart and passion and were resolute. And again, this is a very young team. They're going to learn from these types of performances and times of results. They've gone to Burnley away and they've gone to Brighton away and they haven't conceded a goal. They've had to dig in both of those games and they've come away with them with 4 points and without conceding a goal. It's not the end of the world at all. And I know lots of people who hate Arteta and want Arteta out and want Arsenal to be champions again are going to look at this and say, PR merchant, all that rubbish that I get. It's not being a PR merchant, it's just being a realist, and it's just got to lower expectations sometimes. Arsenal are not the champions anymore. They're not Chelsea. They're not Manchester. I mean, Chelsea struggled against teams. Manchester City drew the other day at home to Southampton. Liverpool went and drew 3-3 with Brentford and could have easily lost that game. It happens. It's the Premier League. Away from home, it is not easy. And I just felt some of the reactions to yesterday's draw has just really gone a little bit over the top for me. And and when you listen, especially for Aaron Ramsdale, I thought he was absolutely spot on with what he had to say afterwards. And I think Arsenal are pretty, the more we see a Ramsdale, the more we hear from Ramsdale, the better that transfer looks. I know it's still early days, but it's certainly proven a lot of people wrong early on with Ramsdale and his form. I think he's been excellent on and off the pitch. Another positive from yesterday was the performance of Ben White and Gabriel. Again, that partnership just seems to be improving. I thought they were very, very good. There was a couple of passes from Ben White that went astray a little bit. One in the first half I can really remember. But apart from that, I thought the two of them played really well. They were under an awful lot of pressure. The conditions were absolutely horrendous, and I thought it was a decent centre-back partnership performance from the pair of them. So I think Arsenal can take a lot from that. Tomiyasu struggled, especially in the first half. He was given a bit of a torrid time in that first half. It was very much felt like a bit of sort of welcome to the Premier League type afternoon for Tomiyasu after those 3 really good starts. The conditions were terrible, like I said. Wind was howling, and he was struggling to in that battle he had against the Brighton fullback. I've forgotten his name, Corella, wasn't it? But I thought in the second half, Tomiyasu really sort of got back into the game, and credit to him from that. He learnt from it. I still don't think he got beaten once when you actually look at the stats and after the game. And he'll learn a lot from that type of performance. But specifically turning back to Ben White and Gabriel, I thought, those two just beginning to look like a real decent partnership, and they're going to get better game by game as they continue to understand each other. Mikel, speaking afterwards, was asked about it. Do you think that partnership's coming together a little bit quicker than you expected? And he said yes, because they've never played together, because Gabby is still struggling a little bit with the language and they didn't have time to work together in pre-season. They are getting a really good connection, good chemistry, and I think their qualities match and complement each other really well. I think both of them were terrific, and I absolutely agree with those sentiments. I thought it was a really good performance from those two, and another clean sheet. And these are the type of performances, if your defenders play well when the rest of your team doesn't, and your attack doesn't click, like it certainly didn't for Arsenal yesterday, but your defenders play well, you can get yourself a point out of a game, and that's what they did yesterday, because the keeper played well, the defenders played well, and obviously you got a little bit of luck along the way as well, with Brighton missing a couple of chances, which probably they should have done better with. But as again, I've said plenty of times through this video, I'm not going to sit here crying over Arsenal getting a point away in the Premier League when they haven't played that badly. Little bit of a nervous moment when Saka limped off towards the end, picked up that leg injury. I think everyone sort of had a sharp intake in breath, thinking, please do not be injured. Doesn't seem to be too bad. That's a good sign after the game. Mikel Arteta giving an update saying he should be fine. He got a knock, but he should be fine. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see if he does still go and link up with England, as he is scheduled to do during the international break. Maybe he stays at London Colney, even if it just to sort of err on the side of caution, really. But that will be a decision that is made in the next 24 hours or so. I'm sure we'll hear pretty quickly if Saka does decide to pull out of the England squad and just rest up that little knock that he received. But the good sign is there from Mikel that it doesn't look too bad at all. And I'll just quickly go through my player ratings now. Obviously, certainly going forward, they're not going to be very high because the performance was pretty poor. But in terms of player ratings, I'm going to give Aaron Ramsdale an 8. I thought in those horrible conditions, he really excelled. Just continues to impress. I thought that massive, it was a goal-saving interception, really, when he sort of sprung out and somehow clawed that ball off Neil Maupay's foot right at the end. Was really impressive. So he gets an 8. I'm going to give Tomiyasu a 6. Really struggled in the first half, Tomiyasu, but I was impressed by the way he bounced back in the second half and got much more to grips with the game. So I'm going to give him a 6. Ben White and Gabriel, I'm going to give both of those a 7. I thought it was a solid performance from the pair of those in really difficult conditions for centre-backs against a team who played very, very well. So those two get 7. Kieran Tierney, I'm going to give a 5. Didn't think it was Tierney's best game. Again, he's sort of struggling a little bit for form at the moment, Kieran Tierney. Even when he gets forward, he's not really delivering like he normally does. That quality of ball that we've seen from Tierney in the past is lacking a little bit at the moment. So I'm going to give Tierney a 5. Thomas Partey, I'm going to give a 6. Didn't think it was a very good performance from Thomas Partey. I thought Arsenal were a little bit outnumbered in midfield. He had a couple of efforts on goal that were very, very wayward as well. So I'm going to give him a 6. Sambi Lokonga, I'm going to give a 6 as well. I thought he was better than Partey. I thought Lokonga yesterday, but not quite decent enough to get himself a 7, so I'll give him a 6. In terms of the forwards, Saka, I thought certainly in the first half, Saka played pretty well. He was looking to get on the ball and drive forward when he could. He had that shot inside the first minute, another couple of decent runs for him as well. And if something was going to happen in that first half, Saka, I think, was going to be key to it. I'm going to give him a 7. I'm going to give Martin Odegaard a 4. I thought Odegaard was poor, just couldn't get into the game at all. When he did get in the game, his passing was off. It was just a poor performance from Martin Odegaard. So he gets a 4. Smith Rowe, I'm going to give my man of the match. He gets a 7. Unlucky not to score the winner in the second half of that driving run. Every time he got on the ball, he was just thought, let's get forward. Smith Rowe is probably the only player who really did think that. Him and Saka, but especially Smith Rowe, you just drive forward at every single opportunity, and he was the one player that really caused Brighton problems throughout. He gets a 7. He's my man of the match. And Aubameyang, I'm going to give a 4. I thought it was a really poor performance from Aubameyang. The ball was just bouncing off him. And in a performance like that, when it's not really working, you needed a forward to hold the ball up when he's got his back to goal. Just didn't happen. It kept bouncing off him, and Brighton kept winning possession back. I thought it was a disappointing performance from Aubameyang, and Arteta probably should have brought on Lacazette earlier on, because that one chance Arsenal had in the second half and Smith Rowe went through, that all came from Lacazette. Actually, with his back to goal, when the ball was fizzed to him, he actually held it up really well and laid it off, and that sprung the breakaway forward, which eventually saw Smith Rowe go forward. So maybe Lacazette should have come on earlier than he did. So that's my player ratings for the game. I'm going to go for the starting 11. Ramsdale 8, Tomiyasu 6. Actually, what have I was giving Ramsdale an 8 there, and I give him Smith Rowe a man of the match. I'll change that. I'm going to give Smith Rowe an 8 as well. So quick change of mind there. Totally forgot, because I do think Smith Rowe gets my man of the match. So Ramsdale 8, Tomiyasu 6, White 7, Gabriel 7, Tierney 5, Partey 6, Lokonga 6, Saka 7, Odegaard 4, Smith Rowe 8, and Aubameyang 4. All right, that's it from me. Everyone, please don't be too disappointed about Arsenal drawing a game away in the Premier League. Try and enjoy your weekend. It's not the end of the world. This is a rebuilding process. There are going to be highs. We had them last week, and they're going to be lows. And if the lows are only draws and they're not defeats, that's not the worst thing in the world. Anyway, from me, trying to be Mr. Positive on a Sunday. Have a good day. I'll speak to you soon.